Hello, I'm Melanie from the Studio for Art and Craft. Today we are going to make these adorable pumpkins, and they do come in a set of 2, so you guys will get all the tools and clay to make 2 of these, a big one and a small one. And so your kit will include 2 slabs of clay, 2 templates. Today in the video I'm just going to make 1 because they are the same. And then you're going to get a bowl, a little cup that you will fill with water, and then a skewer. And what this is for is just cutting. Alright, so these are adorable. You can see this one is textured with a simple leaf, and then this is a simple pumpkin with a textured leaf. And so you have the option to make both. That's completely up to you. Today I'm actually using the mesh from an onion bag from the grocery store. And so what we want to do today is we first want a texture. And so I'm going to use a rolling pin just because that's what I have. You guys will get a wooden dowel as your roller in your kit. And I'm just going to roll the texture into our clay to create the impression. Nice, and you can see that it's pressed in there, and I'm just going to pull it up, and that made a nice little texture. And then I'm going to put my template right on there. I'm just going to flatten it out, make it stick to the clay a little bit. It's just paper, so it will stick. And then I'm going to take my skewer, and I'm cutting my design out, and I'm cutting along the template. Sometimes it's easier to trace it first and then cut it. It's completely up to you and your preferences. And so I'm just going along, being gentle not to distort the image and cut too far in. And I'm going around all of it. And so sometimes you find it easier to go in one direction versus going up and down. I find it easier to come out with both. It stretches the clay in a different way that will make it easier to cut, in my opinion. And so it's just your preference. And see I'm just going to lay that back down if it pulls up, and then I'm going to gently lift that up and off. Alright, and so we're going to want to keep our scraps. Don't just squish them immediately. We're going to use them for the leaf and stem, and so I'm just putting them to the side. And then you can see we have this. And so our texture is on the front of this here, and if we were to just fold it up like this, you could see the texture would not be on the outside. So what we're actually going to have to do is I'm just going to lift it off gently, just trying to pull it away from itself without ripping it, and I'm just going to gently flip it over. Alright, and so then I'm just going to connect them all. I'm just laying it out to see how it'll look, and you can see that will be cute. And what you want to do is when you attach them, whenever we attach clay, we want to do what I call scratching and attaching. And so I scratch the top of this, and I'm going to scratch the bottom of this one, just because that's where they're going to connect. And I'm dabbing a little bit of water onto it with my fingers. And so then I'm just going to squeeze them together. Nice. And I think I'm going to do this one just because I'm going to add variety as to which layers are on top of each other. You can see they overlap, so I'm just going to want it to be a little different and not go around in a circle. Once again, completely up to you. Gonna add a little water and squeeze it together. Be careful not to squeeze it too much. You don't want to just squeeze it and let it rip and fall apart. You might rip your bottom ones. And so I'm just scratching all of them scratching where they're gonna connect. Adding a little water, squeezing it in there just to make sure they're connected well. And I'm sticking my finger in there to support it without ripping it, and I'm just gonna squeeze them. And then we can move these layers around a little bit to get all of them to fit. And you can see this one's ripping a little bit. It's a little gentle. It's delicate, we wanna be gentle. And I'm just adjusting it a little bit. And then I'm gonna take my scraps, and they are already textured. If you wanna use a different texture, that's up to you. So what we have, you can use different textures such as lace, like I said, the onion bag that we have, this is just from a vegetable, little bag from the grocery store that we cut. And you can use really anything. You could use a sweater. Be creative. Clay will come out of the material, easily washed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make our stem now. And so I'm just going to peel a little piece of clay off, and I'm just going to shape it. And so I'm squishing. We don't really want to just fold the clay. I'm going to squish it into the shape I want, connect it. I'm going to rip that off because it looks a little long. And I'm kind of just squishing it into the shape I want. And this is going to hide the ugly seams of your pumpkin. So you can see I'm kind of just squeezing it with my fingers and shaping it and smoothing it out as well. So I can smooth it with my fingers just by dragging my fingers along. And once again, when we attach clay, we are going to scratch it. But I want my leaf to be under my stem, so I'm going to create my leaf first. And your leaf is also a template. And so this is our leaf template here. And so I'm just going to cut it right out of our clay. I think I'm going to want it to be smooth because my pumpkin's textured. So I'm just going to cut it right out. Gently, I don't want to mess up the design. Alright. And then I have this. And what I'm going to want to do with this is it's rough from cutting it, so I'm just going to smooth it with my water. Don't need too much water. I'm just going to smooth out what could be sharp edges once it dries. Alright. And that is my leaf. So I'm going to attach my leaf on there, and I think I'm going to make it curl up a little bit. And so I'm going to scratch the bottom of my leaf and scratch where I want it on the pumpkin. Dab some water on there, just a little. And I'm going to support it. So I'm going to squeeze my finger in there and support it from the bottom because I don't want my pumpkin to break. And so I just squeezed it on there a little bit. And now I'm going to add my stem. And so I'm scratching it, scratching where it's going to go, right over the seams. I'm going to dab a little water on there, and once again, I'm going to squeeze my finger in there and support it while I'm pushing all of the pieces together. And then you can fix it once it's done. Alright. So there we have our little pumpkin, and it is a little soft, and it wants to fall just because the clay is soft. And so this is where the bowl comes in. The bowl is just going to support the edges and not allow it to kind of droop down. It's just going to support it while it dries. And so you can let it sit for an hour or two until it gets what we call leather hard. Just hard enough that it'll support its own weight. And just remember, when taking it out of the bowl to paint it, it's going to be very fragile. So be careful, but it should be okay. And then it's up to you whether you want to do opposites. So I did texture on this pumpkin and left the leaf blank, but you can do whatever you'd like. So this is our little pear. You can do the same thing on your other pumpkin, and we will give you the templates for both. And that's all I have today, so thanks for watching.